I've never in my life seen a river that produced trout like this one. It was just magnificent. I'd get a trout at Great Northern Pike. Well,
Mosquitoes a problem?
say again?
The mosquitoes a problem?
Terrible problem. But if you get out in the open where the wind could get to you, it wasn't too bad. When you're in the trees and the bushes, you always had your head net on. Great Northern Pike there. And this is my eat your heart out slide.
What type of fish is that one there?
That's salmon. Now, that's Atlantic salmon. And your Atlantic salmon don't necessarily die after they spawn. Sometimes yes, many times no. They go back to sea and get bigger and go back in. Sometime along their lifespan they will die. Now, wherever I was catching fish, I would put up a smoker. Now, the firebox for that smoker is down where the shadow of the man's head is at. That's where my firebox was. And I always had at least a 12-foot tunnel for the smoke to go up. I'm wanting to smoke the fish, smoke the meat, not cook it. I want cool smoke. Doing this method, I could put fish in. Well, no, in this case, the barrel is floating off the ship somewhere. So I'd knock the ends off and put the end over a trench so the smoke would come up. Had one of my sergeants prepare a jerky rack. Now, when I catch trout or a big fish, I would clean it by sticking my knife through the back, not through the stomach. And cut him down the back, down one side of the backbone. And when you get all done and you set them on something flat, they just fall apart. You clean the entrails out, take the fins off. I take them over to the barrel, and I had short sticks about the size of a pencil. I stick the stick in one eye and out the other eye. Then I would hang the salmon or the trout tail down in my smoker. And if I do that early in the morning, by the time I went to bed that night, the outside layer of fish would be ready to eat. When I was smoking fish, I was everybody's friend. Even guys that didn't like me called me friend. And I'd give them a piece of smoked fish. I built one of these by my house, and then I had to go out into the woods. One thing for fuel, you do not ever use evergreen. That'll put a kind of a black finish on your meat. It's not a good taste. You can use rotten pines and rotten spruce, but not greens. And my wife, when I was gone, she would go out. I had a rotten tree there. She'd get her apron full of this rotted wood and go over and dump it on the firebox. And within an hour or so, we'd go back to smoking again. This cat really gave me a problem. And he'd get on I took the tent out so I could have visitors out there. And he'd try to crawl up the tent, and it was steep and slippery, and he'd poke his claws through to get a hold, and then he would tear. And finally I decided I'd had enough. I chased him off of there and shot him. One of my sergeants married a lady up there that was a resident, and they homesteaded. And he would come over. That was Sergeant Cooper, the man from Wyoming. And he'd bum any pups we didn't want. He'd take them home and raise them up, and they slid off them. But their home was across the river. It was a mile wide there. And she'd put 2 dogs out and all she'd do. And she'd get those 2 dogs and bring her across the ice and over to the Hudson Bay store where she traded. But being a GI wife, she could go to the commissary if she wanted to. But you could buy a lot of things in the Hudson Bay store you couldn't buy in the commissary. One thing I keep thinking back and thinking about a great mistake I made. There was a room off of this store that was about 12 by 12, and there was a pile of polar bear hides in there. From the ground up, there were about, I'd say, 3.5 to 4 foot of them. If you wanted to buy one of them, you paid the cashier $25, and you went in and you took the top hide. You couldn't go through and sort them out and get the best. If you found a hide, say 4 hides down, you go give him $100. You take the first 4, you could throw 3 of them away and keep one, and you'd make a tremendous profit. I always thought I was going to go get me one of those big polar bear hides, and I didn't. Now, the day I left, but the day my family left, we was given a ticket to get on a MAX airplane that would be coming through heading for the United States. And I was told, be on that plane 11 o'clock. I will not wait for it. If you're not there 11, you're going to miss your ride. Well, we had closed up our quarters. I had my family in the digging hotel, waiting for 11 o'clock. The base commander's wife called me, or secretary called me, and she said, Colonel Knapp wants you to be down at the school in half an hour. And I said, well, does Colonel Knapp know I've got to get on the airplane this morning? And she says, yeah, he knows it. I said, well, I don't want to miss my flight. She said, well, I don't know what he's done, but he would have taken care of it. I said, okay, so I went down to the school to see what was up. Well, no, he came by the hotel and picked me up. Took me down, and when I got there was a civilian automobile there with a Canadian plate on it. And this man was the head of Canada's Department of Transportation. And at that time, he presented me with this gun. He said, in recognition to the many Canadians that I put through my school, which I didn't do alone, of course, my people did, but he gave me the gun. I was delighted to have it. I was just still happy. But then I felt I wasn't, the school earned that gun. So after he left, I gave the gun to the colonel and said, present it to the school. That's the last time I saw that gun. Well, you're wondering what it is. It's a weapon they used in the Navy. When 2 ships are beside each other and they want to tie up, they could take this gun and shoot a small lanyard over to the other ship, which would be tied to a chain or cable or something, and draw it back. Then the 2 ships could be pulled together. Like, I got up there, and boy, I'll tell you that pilot, that one, no, we came back on a DC-4, C-54, but he was mad at me. But anyway, we got him. Now, that's the last slide, and there's displays over there on the table if you'd like to go over and look at them. I'll stand around here as long as anybody wants to stay.
Hey, Loyd,
Yes, sir.
tell them about the bank robbery.
Well, I got a couple others I could have read. But years later, after I left Labrador, I was stationed at Loring Air Force Base. I was at KC-135. A local bank was robbed. A couple guys. The police chased them up to the Allagash primitive area, and they went back into the primitive area and got their car stuck, and they took off on foot. So the police thought, well, that's all right. Winter's coming on. They'll freeze back there and die anyway. So the following spring, they showed up and they were captured. And the cops asked them, how in the world did you ever survive back there? And they said, well, we're survivors. We went to the Arctic Survival School in Labrador. We learned how to live out here in the wintertime.
Tell them about the knockbacks and the $10,
Okay. While I was on the DEW line, we were living in Jamesway huts. And it was cold, bitter cold. And we was in there one night, the whole group of us. There were several of us flying out of there. And then all of a sudden the door opened, and this Eskimo burst in. And he wasn't very tall. I would say over 4'4", 4'5", and he had a parka that went almost to the ground. And he walked in the middle of our tent. How did you know about that guy?
I read your book.
Oh, okay. He walked in the middle, and he looked at all of us, and he'd grin at us. He had the biggest white teeth, and he'd grin, you know. And we thought, finally he said, cigarette, cigarette. Some guy that smoked walked over and gave him a cigarette. He sat there and puffed on that, and he'd look at us, and he'd smile, big smile, like he had a big joke. Finally, he reached under his parka, and he came out with the most beautiful necklace I had ever seen. The soles was polar bear, the sides up to the ankle was seal, and the top was caribou. He held them up and he says, $10, $10. So one of the pilots reaches in his wallet and he gets out, he flashes this $1 bill, walks up and gives it to the guy. The guy lays the $1 bill down. He goes under his parka and he comes out with a little leather bag and he gets a $10 bill out and he matches them side by side. He gives this guy the dollar bill back and he says, $10, big smile, $10, you know. So another guy gets up and gives him a $20 bill. He wouldn't take it. Then I thought, well, I want them. And just about the time I was going to go up and give him $10, another guy did. And another time I used to walk, you know. That's the story of the $10 bill. I will turn the lights on now, please.
One question.
Yes, sir.
When you developed the curriculum for your school, were there any facets of your curriculum associated with T3, Fletcher's
No,
Island?
there was not. We discussed that later on. And if you're interested in my curriculum, I brought a copy with me. And when I first set that school up, they told me, prepare a curriculum and send it into headquarters. And I thought, well, I've done things like this before, and they're so nitpicky. You know, and I sent it in, pretty soon it came back, staff approved. Never made one change. And I thought, I wrote most of that curriculum. See, I taught survival at Stead Air Force Base. Anybody here ever gone through Stead Air Force Base survival? Oh, but anyway, I taught out there, and they were so fussy about curriculum. That's all.
Where did your family live? At Goose Bay?
I got, did anybody in a hurry to get out here? I'm over time right now. And Deloy always threatens me when I go over time. Deloy, we got 10 more minutes? I'll tell you, I was going to skip that because it took time.
Hey, John,
But
did you give him the straight skinny?
What's that?
Did you give him the straight story, did you?
No.
I'm here to straighten him out.
When you get through though,
We came through Goose Bay about the end of April. John and I did, and we 24 in 44. And, is there a village there, a town?
yes, there was quarters there. But let me tell you about it. At 6 months, I had to determine whether I was going to rotate or not. Well, headquarters had told the commander to get a decision for me. But he came down and he said, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm a married man. I got a family home. I'd left my family at a home that I'd bought out of near Stead in Nevada. I said, I'm going home. He said, what would it take to have you study? I said, I'm getting way behind on flying time. I had a guarantee I could get some flying time in, and I could get my wife and kids up here and I'd stay. He says, you got it. I said, all right, I'll extend. So they got me tickets for the airlines, and I got hold of my family, and they all had this one over here. Sherry was too young, and she wasn't born like a back then, but Sandy was there. So my 4 kids and my wife flew into LaGuardia. They sent me down to LaGuardia. They said, by the time you get back, he said, we're going to take some quarters and convert them. If there were no quarters left available for an officer, he said, we'll fix you up a kitchen and whatnot. So when I got back, what they had done, they took an old Canadian officer's BOQ, and they partitioned it out, and they made the smallest kitchen there. But what my kids really went for was the toilet. There was about 12 stools there. Each kid had his own toilet. Each kid had his own sink, and each one had their own shower. You know, and that went over big, didn't it? Kirk complained we didn't get no milk. The only time they got milk, if I could get an airplane and fly over to Newfoundland, I could go to a dairy and I'd bring back several cases. But we had the mechanical cow there where they made the milk, you know. That's horrible. Yeah, that's what I should have done when I died.
What year were you there, from what to what?
I went there I had to be there in January the 3rd of '53, and I left there June of '55. I was there 30 months. Any other questions?
Where's this other place you call Steve? Where's that at?
Say again?
Where's this other place you taught survival at Steve?
At Stead Air Force Base
Where's
in
that?
Nevada. Yeah, that was a rough school. And I'll tell you something about that school. Our boss, our commander, was General Curtis LeMay, and he believed in that school. And twice while I was stationed there, he flew out and personally inspected what was going on. And that was a tough school.
Where's that located?
Huh?
Where's that located?
Right outside Reno, Nevada. But we could take our troops back up into the woods and drop them off at night. And then they were supposed to practice escape and evasion at the same time. And I was so glad I didn't have to bring that up to my school. But the first class, I had never been on orders to go to survival school. I asked to go through as a student. So I found out how tough it was going through.
These people that live there, homestead are right near where Labrador.
Yeah.
Where, gee, how they live up there? There were many like that?
A lot of
They
them.
homeschool their kids, or they didn't? Do you know?
How do you turn this? Only the natives could homestead. And my sergeant was in on it because he married a woman who was growing up there. I gotta turn this projector on. We can turn it
But
on.
these Canadians, McLeans, were they the McLeans, or they lived up there, what did they do?
Most of the natives around there worked with the Americans on the air base. Before that, almost all of them were trappers, or made their life fishing.
We all do.
Thank you.
But if you read, you need to read his book. I mean, this guy got anything he asked for 30 months. Anything he asked. Military doesn't operate that way. And he complains about it.
They pay you or did you pay them?
Hey, I'll tell you what, I was on flying status and drawing flight pay.
We gave you an airplane last time. This time, all I can find is 2 hats and 2 of the airplanes you flew.
Oh, so, hey, this very airplane I used to fly with the end on the back. Yeah, I'll take that one.
Have them both.
Oh, swell. I'll take them both. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. What do you think?
Well, folks, we're done for the summer. Check with us in October, all right? The exact date will depend on whether or not I decide to go deer hunting or not.
Yeah, have a good summer, don't work yourself.
I've been hard at it here lately, I guess as all of us
Yeah.
have, planting some tomatoes.
Drive you crazy.
Yeah,